You're on.
Do you enjoy leading and mentoring subordinates, or squashing chaos and restoring order? If so, being a first sergeant might be for you. Hi, my name is Master Sergeant David Cook. I am the first sergeant of the 362nd Training Squadron, Detachment 1, here at Fort Eustis, Virginia. I would like to talk to you today about what it means to be a first sergeant. I'll talk a little bit about history. We'll talk about what the role of first sergeant is, and then I'll talk about how to become a first sergeant if you like. Let's begin with some history on the position. Back in the 17th century in Prussia, the Prussian army were the first ones to incorporate a first sergeant. The company sergeants had two roles. They were the first sergeants, and they were also the sergeant majors, and they were in charge of the enlisted force and responsible to the company commanders of all enlisted force issues. When George Washington was setting up the American Army, he relied heavily on a book by General Baron von Steuben called the Blue Book of Regulations. And Steuben, in this book, outlined the roles of a first sergeant to a T, and Washington concentrated on that to set up his position in the Army. So he created a position, the senior NCO, that is in charge of the enlisted force and responsible to the company commander for all issues affecting the enlisted force. In the Marines and Army, the first sergeant is known as top or top kick. In the Air Force, he is known as the first shirt. Now that we've covered some background on the first sergeant, let's look at some of the duties that he feels. The first sergeant is the top enlisted guy, and he is the one that is responsible to the commander for all enlisted issues, such as morale and welfare, well-being of the unit, making sure everybody's trained properly, and actually even he's a counselor at times when the enlisted members are maybe having some problems, and if he can't solve the problems at this level, he always has outside resources he can tap into to refer that individual to get them help. They're responsible for making sure the enlisted force is ready to accomplish the mission. Now that we know that what a first sergeant does, here's how to become one. In the Air Force, you have to be an E7 Master Sergeant to apply to be a first sergeant. You have to get a letter of recommendation from your commander, and it has to go through a first sergeant selection board. If it goes through the first sergeant selection board and you're approved to become one, then you are able to go and attend training and become a first sergeant. Being a first sergeant is a demanding and rewarding career choice, and it could be a really good time for if you're a people person and ready to take on the challenge. Now let's look at what we have covered today. Today we have talked about what it means to be a first sergeant, a little bit of history about the position, meaning coming from the 17th century in Prussia. The roles of a first sergeant, meaning that he's the principal advisor to the commander on all enlisted issues, and how to become one, having to get the recommendation letter from the commander and going through the selection board. With this briefing, I hope you've learned more about what a first sergeant does, how special they are, and how to become one. Thank you for your attention.